Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
It is April 1966. Esquire magazine publishes the article, Frank Sinatra Has a Cold. Vanity Fair would call it the greatest literary nonfiction story of the 20th century. Then, suddenly, it is November 2004. Dig.com becomes Reddit before Reddit, essentially. A news aggregation website that millions would use to this day. And now, my name is Jared Russo. I'm an editor at Dig.com, and I am along the East River in Manhattan, and I have a cold. And I'm here to introduce an experiment of sorts. We've called it the Diggcast, and I'm very, very thankful that right now the loud, obnoxious, angry New York construction workers outside of my window have decided to give me a moment's bit of respite, of peace.
Julia, I have a big question to ask, and you're the perfect person to ask this question.
Oh, shucks. Thanks, Jared.
Anytime. Is this the worst time in human civilization to be famous, to be a celebrity?
That is a fantastic question. I would say it's probably not the worst time in human civilization because a long time ago they didn't have toilets or like indoor plumbing. So at least we're better than that. But I would say no, it's probably not great being a celebrity right now.
I really thought you were going to go with like a Caesar backstabbing kind of angle, but I guess the toilets make sense. The reason I asked this is because it seems like ever since the pandemic happened, and maybe even going back a little further, there are no new movie stars. It seems like anything anyone famous does is either shut up, you're rich, you're a Nepo baby, I don't want to hear you sing Imagine. It just seems like being a celeb is not harder than ever. It just seems like people are just over it. They're just over the concept of someone being famous because they got cast in a TV show or they recorded an album, because the internet has democratized anyone doing something that's good, and therefore you can be recognized for being a great Twitch streamer. You can be a great recording artist without having a label sort of pick you because you're Milli Vanilli. Does that make sense?
I guess so. I mean, I was just seeing that Malia Obama, I don't know if it was probably not Sundance, but some film festival. She's going by Malia Ann now, which I think is a pretty interesting choice because she doesn't want to be perceived as a Nepo baby. Meanwhile, I would love to be a Nepo baby, but my parents didn't do anything interesting and I'm not rich. But yeah, I think that celebrities now are kind of suffering from the downsides of the internet and also the downsides of parasocial relationships, but they also benefit from it. So how bad can you really feel for them when they're billionaires?
Well, not every celebrity is a billionaire, but there are no ethical or moral billionaires, and I feel like it is the removal of the middle class in terms of like American society, and like the middle class of like movies in terms of budget, and the middle class in terms of like budgets for video games, and the middle class of everything is just like gone. So it is so polarized of either you're micro budget, you're small, you're indie, or you're big. That's also happening to celebrities because there's Tom Cruise and there's Taylor Swift and there's the biggest names that were famous 30 years ago. And then there's like Mark Rebier, who is like a guy who has like a cool DJ set who like makes custom songs and he like freestyles. And I think he's pretty famous, but like no one has ever heard of him when I ask. So it's like either you're following a YouTuber or a TikToker and that's your micro niche and there's no monoculture, or Will Smith is slapping someone in the face on the stage at the Oscars.
Dude, I love a niche though. I gotta say, do you know what Roll for TikTok is?
No.
Okay, so I've been very deep into Roll for TikTok for like the last year, and it's actually becoming a problem in my life because I'm so into it. So it's all started with this guy who did it all started with this guy who did roll for sandwich, where he used D&D dice to roll for every ingredient in his sandwich, and then he would make whatever the dice told him. So they could be like, okay, the bread is going to be a donut, and the meat is going to be a chicken cutlet, and the cheese is going to be Gouda, and the sauce is going to be, it's chocolate syrup, right? So he started it, and now it's this entire subgenre on TikTok because it's taken off, and there's all of these spin-offs, and they all have the same concept, but they're a little bit different. So I follow Roll for Puppet, Roll for Coffee, Roll for Latte, Roll for Burrito, Roll for Pizza, Roll for Barbecue is one of my faves. I know I'm getting a little off topic here, but I highly recommend anybody and everybody go watch Roll for TikToks.
I love this. I love the use of D&D dice.
It's fantastic, and a lot of them have custom dice towers now that they use for rolling. So like the puppet person uses like a puppet dice tower. The latte person uses like a 3D printed splash of coffee, and so the dice like tumble down. I don't even play D&D, and I am so incredibly into these random combinations of food and or puppet features that I can't stop watching. It soothes my brain in the exact right way. Anyway, all of the Roll For people, those are celebrities to me.
And I've never heard of that until right now. So clearly there is a missing middle of like up and coming rising sort of superstars. And it just seems like either you are a deity in a religion like Taylor Swift, or everyone bows to your feet and you're the most famous person on earth and you can sort of move the masses, or like have people like come up with clues into like what you're shadow dropping next week, or no one's ever heard of you. And if I explain who Anthony Fantano is, unless you're following Anthony Fantano, it's like, who? It's like, oh, he's one of the biggest guys who talks about music on the internet. Who? And it's sort of like, I guess this is like a deeper issue with the monocultural, and it just doesn't seem like there's like who is the next Tom Cruise?
Interestingly, I've been thinking a lot about Charles Melton recently. Because I am like a long-suffering Riverdale fan. I started watching it back when it was just Archie wants to play football and do music, right? That was the beginning of Riverdale. We were like, oh, so cute. And then it went absolutely off the rails into like wizardry and board games and murderers and serial killers and time jumps and also angels, like insanity. Anyway, so Riverdale had Charles Melton play this character called Reggie. And obviously Riverdale is just bananas, and I'm not sure it really showcased the range of Charles Melton's acting abilities. So everybody kind of wrote him off, and now he's in May, December, and there was like a bunch of buzz before the award ceremonies about whether Charles Melton was like the next big thing. And so while I don't think he's the next Tom Cruise, I don't know who is the next Tom Cruise. I do kind of feel like he's somebody who's in that space right now. Like he's like a middle of the road celebrity who people say have the potential to become a big celebrity. Or like, you know who else? Barry Keoghan right now. I feel like he's also in that like precipice era of being about to break through to be huge, but they're not incredibly well known.
Well, first of all, Barry is literally the Joker right now, even though there's technically multiple Jokers out. That's confusing. That's another problem with society.
Is that for real? Is he actually the Joker, like in Batman?
In The Batman with Robert Pattinson, yes, he was the Joker.
What?
Are you not aware of this?
No, I didn't know that. I only knew about that creepy guy, Paul Dano.
He's the Riddler.
I didn't know that. No, I missed that. I saw Batman in theaters. Did they show his face?
Barely.
Oh, I'm Googling it right now. Oh, no, this is too scary for me.
There's a deleted scene where it's like he actually gets to like be the Joker, and they like got rid of it because that movie's already too long and besides the point. But so let me phrase it to you this way. Do you think people's moms have heard of Michael B. Jordan or Pedro Pascal? Like, have people's moms heard of these guys? Because if I say like Michael Keaton, Robert Redford, Will Smith, Tom Hanks, they're gonna go, oh, of course I know those people. And then it's like, okay, well, like, who's Chris Evans? I bet you my mom would be like, I don't know who Chris Evans is. And if I show her a photo, she'd go, oh, of course, that guy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people's moms probably don't know them. I mean, my mom in particular, she knows a lot about like Nick Jonas and Joe Jonas and Harry Styles, but it's mostly like against her will. But no, I don't think she knows who Michael B. Jordan is or Pedro Pascal.
So you're telling me, Marvel, that you're leaning on these people to like open up movies, and I feel like the olds and the youngs, the youths, they just like don't know who these people are, and we're in an age where it's like Mr. Beast is the most famous person on Earth, but again, everyone in my circles, whether it be my family or my friends, they're like, Mr. Beast has how many subscribers? Oh, that's that weird looking dude who's in the grocery store selling like chocolate bars or cookies or whatever. Like, it's just so weird and fractured how it's like people can be incredibly famous and rich and no one I know knows about it, or things can happen in the news and you just don't hear about it in the way that like, yeah, I mean, God, I sound so old, but like we only had so many channels. There was only so many newscasters.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I don't think that's a problem though. I mean, you're talking about the monoculture and you're like, oh, we don't have a monoculture and that's a bad thing. Like, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't want to be into the same people that my mom is into. Like, I love niche communities. I love weird subcultures and tiny like slices of the internet. I kind of like that, like the people who are super famous to me aren't super famous to everyone else, right? Kind of helps with access, helps with authenticity. I'm kind of into it.
I I have a hard time like dragging myself away from like every institution and structure that is built into like we all get the same news, so no one makes up news and believes different things. We all watch the same media, so everyone is sort of on the same page about like, you know, like what is good and what is bad, and oh, I've seen that, or like, oh, that movie referenced Jurassic Park. We've all seen Jurassic Park. Whereas you can't reference things that came out a few years ago because like it just wouldn't have the same impact. It just seems like it is like we're all living in our own separate little worlds and bubbles, and it's like I just can't keep up, even though I work for a website that is literally about this, with all of the just like the rapid like nonsense flying at us, where it's like Gypsy Rose Blanchard and the guy from The Bachelor mistook her for Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and it's just like there's you need to have like so many names in your head to keep up with all of this nonsense. It's just like I can't say like go back to a simpler time, but I kind of want to because I'm old.
How old are you? Like 30?
I'm turning 33 in a month.
Okay, so you are old. To me, you're old.
I know that.
I'm 21.
And you're going to be 21 forever.
It's
Every
crazy.
year you just turn 21.
Every year I turn 21 again. I don't want to go back to a simpler time. I love apps, dude. I love TikTok. I love my For You page. I love being on Instagram and then trying out Dazcam and then switching over to Huji and then doing laps. And is anybody actually going to use Lemonade? Like, no, I love that. I love having tons of micro celebrities who are influential to me, but to nobody else. I love commenting on their lives. Oh my God, you should see my DMs with my girlfriends. We are so mean about so many influencers. Just like things like, oh, she posted a picture and she has like way too many onions in her kitchen. And we'll be like, what could she possibly need those onions for? I totally get off on that. I don't want a monoculture. I don't want it to be simpler. I want everything all the time.
I lost you at Lemonade and what was that other thing you said?
Yeah, it's because you're old. 33 is the new 103.
I mean, in a normal sane world, a comedian like Julie Noki or a comedian like George would not have YouTube channels. They would be on SNL. But you watch SNL now, and those people aren't turning into like celebrities in the same way that Will Ferrell did. So it's almost like, why am I watching SNL? And then on top of that, there will be things I scroll past on Twitter that are way funnier than anything SNL done in years because they can't rely on the same sort of pool of knowledge or cultural touchstones to mine comedy out of. And I will scroll past and find people are into Skibbity Toilet. Are you aware of Skibbity Toilet?
I am aware. I think, okay, I don't want to talk about Skibbity Toilet. I want to talk about Will Ferrell. I think Bowen Yang could be the new Will Ferrell. I think he can break through.
I love Bowen Yang.
Yeah, huge Bowen Yang fan. And did you see the other day? This is what I'm talking about when I'm like, I love all of the tiny references all the time. Did you see that clip of Tina Fey talking to Bowen Yang on his podcast about how he's become too famous to pull the kind of like commentary that he does?
I did see that, and the only reason I did see that is because my wonderful girlfriend who I love, who works at BuzzFeed, showed me that because she obviously has a lot of people on the BuzzFeed team send her clips of hot ones and puppy interviews for her job, but also things like that. So I did see that clip, and it was extremely hilarious.
Yeah, so it's funny if you guys haven't seen it. It's funny because Tina Fey is telling Bowen Yang that he's become too famous, basically, and needs to watch what he says. And she goes, "Yeah, and now you're hanging out with Ariana and SpongeBob." And Bowen Yang like rolls his eyes, and he's totally like caught. And I just love that Tina Fey referred to Ethan Slater as SpongeBob because he was in the SpongeBob musical. But the way that she said it, I totally understood it. And if you had said that to somebody 50 years ago, they would be like, are you good?
They would have a heart attack.
They would have a heart. That would kill a Victorian child.
Yes, everyone says that.
But me, not a Victorian child, just an innocent 21-year-old who loves pop culture, I was like, this is peak humor.
That's the bit we have to keep up, is that you're 21, which means that you were born in 2003. Oh my God.
I know. It's so crazy. I'm looking forward to having an alcoholic drink soon.
You're going to have to learn about 9/11 through a textbook.
Damn. I actually did a story a couple of years ago for Gothamist about kids who were in school when 9/11 happened. And it was really interesting. I talked to a bunch of teachers in New York City about how they handled it with their kids. And it's very hard to wrap your head around the fact that not everybody remembers 9/11. I don't know. That was off topic. But my point is, go read my articles. Thank you.
I remember being in the 5th grade and kids were getting pulled out of class early one by one, as if like the world was ending.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, not to turn this into a 9/11 podcast, but my mom was an elementary school teacher at this elementary school I was in. And so kids would like report to me all the time about what my mom was doing. Like, my mom was like the hottest source of gossip for just me. Like, people would come up to me like, here's what your mom did today. And I'm like, I could not care less. I'm going to see her later. But on 9/11, kids came up to me and they were like, Julia, your mom was crying earlier. And I was like, oh no. Anyway, bad times, 9/11. Let's not do it again.
I mean, she had good reason to cry.
She absolutely did.
God, this is such a weird tangent. When I interned at SiriusXM, I worked on the Howard Stern channels, 100 and 101, and I got to like listen to the audio of the 9/11 like broadcast, and I thought it was like so cool that I was like, I have like the archival footage. I get to like listen to this, and then like years later, it was like, oh, it's just on YouTube. Everyone can listen, and I was like, what a weird like thing. Also, there is no like modern Howard Stern. Like, do people know who Howard Stern is beyond like he was on an America's?
Oh yeah. Oh, they
Got
do
Talent?
because so I'm in the Harry Styles fandom, and Harry Styles fans hate Howard Stern. We talk about it all the time.
Did he do anything personally to him?
Yes, he did. He asked him some questions that we don't like during his last album cycle, and he cut him off, and Harry seemed super uncomfortable. And within the fandom, we are like anti Howard Stern. So I would say yes, young people do know who Howard Stern is, but it is not a flattering viewpoint.
Okay. You're a part of a fandom. Is it a cult?
It's not a cult. It's kind of a cult. Yeah, it's kind of a cult. I mean, I recently went to rural Oklahoma to go see my favorite band. And when I was flying from New York City, like urban capital of America, to middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, to go see a band at a casino, I was kind of questioning my choices and my motivations. Like, who is in charge of me? It's not Julia Glum. It's Joe Jonas.
I I also I can't believe I'm saying this. I found out that there is a bonus Jonas.
He doesn't like to be called that. Don't call him that.
Listen,
How would you like if somebody was like, "Oh, you're the bonus Russo. You're the extra one. We don't actually care that much about you."
well, that would never happen. So I can't even fathom that concept.
Mm. Yeah, there is. There's a fourth Jonas brother. His name is Franklin, and he has his own music. He actually his bit right now is that he dresses up like a rat and he performs his songs.
Fascinating. Okay, so we are divided.
If we had a monoculture, Jared, you either Franklin Jonas as a rat would be in charge of the culture and it's all everybody would be talking about, or you wouldn't get to hear about him at all. And thankfully, we don't have a monoculture, and you have me, and I can tell you about these things.
It just sucks that it's like, this is a whole nother podcast, but it's just like every tech company is now a movie studio because they have to be in every industry to continue their infinite growth because of capitalism. And there are way too many TV shows being produced, and there's more than there's ever been. And it's impossible to keep up with like what people are watching and into. And that affects who's famous. And we're obviously divided on the status of celebrity. But I'm currently podcasting in a room surrounded by posters and images of Taylor Swift. And I need to know, is there going to be, like, in the future, not wars based on nations and countries and lines that divide maps geographically, but wars based on Harry versus Taylor?
Not based on Harry versus Taylor. Absolutely not. Those two fan bases are so simpatico. Like, I don't think so. But would Taylor Swift fans go to war over something? Yes. Would Harry Styles fans go to war with Howard Stern? Also, yes.
I just, in my brain, there's a nightmare scenario where all these reports about, like, women around the world are getting more liberal and men around the world are getting more conservative, and there's, like, obviously like a widening gap in viewpoints to a radicalized degree. And it's, if things come to blows and there's a civil war, it'll be like the South versus the North, or the West versus the East, or red versus blue, men versus women, Taylor versus her exes.
I think that's not. I don't like that viewpoint very much. I think that's like.
Oh, no! I don't want this to happen. I'm just afraid that it's going to.
No, I don't think that's fair, because then I think you're kind of like demonizing Taylor Swift for dating like any normal woman, and that's not cool.
Listen, we elected a game show host as a president once. Like, nothing matters anymore. Like, all bets are off. There are no rules. Like, you know that, like, being the president used to matter. Like, that was like a big deal. It, like, doesn't matter anymore. It's like there is no president. It's just like that's done. That's gone. You know, like, winning an Oscar used to matter, and now it's just like no one cares. Like, ratings for the Emmys are like at their lowest. Like, no one cares.
You're just saying that because you don't have an Oscar. Like, if you had an Oscar or you were the president, that would feel pretty good.
It used to matter when, like, Steve Carell, like, never won for playing Michael Scott on The Office, and then they, like, give it to, like, what's Sheldon's name? Jim Parsons?
Yeah, that guy.
They give it to him, or like James Spader, or they give it to like Alec Baldwin, and it was like people were like upset with Emmys, and now it's just like no one cares.
You were just a hot take machine, Jared.
No, it just seems like society, like at large, like pop culture, like no longer gives a shit about awards because people are like so not into the idea of celebrities anymore. Like, they're just kind of like over being famous. Like Kim Kardashian couldn't be famous now. I
think you exist in a different like slice of society than I do, because
really,
yeah, in my zones, in on my timeline, people do care about awards, and they do care about, and they are like rooting for celebrities to win them and to be celebrities and become bigger celebrities. Absolutely.
I just feel like the internet age of like the internet's boyfriend and the internet's girlfriend and like thirsting over people and like those days are over, which is, I guess, good, because like people used to be creepy and have like a countdown timer for like Mary-Kate and Ashley to like become legal. You know, like people were like way too into like Paris Hilton and like way too into the lives of like Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee. Like it was an unhealthy obsession with like star fucking in America. And it just seems like it's like people like care about like other things, like video games. Like there are really no celebrities in video games. Like the people who make them aren't famous, the actors in them aren't famous. Like it just like that hasn't permeated in the same way that like you'll like look at like, oh, here's the box office results and like this movie that like Henry Cavill opened with, Bryce Dallas Howard called Argyle flopped at the box office. Like I don't know, it just seems like it's like we're like so moving away into like a different world where like being famous is just like it's sort of a weird end result, and it's not like a goal. It's not like I'm Chris Hemsworth, I'm Thor, and now it's just like, oh yeah, like I wonder what he's up to. Can he open a movie now? Like, do I care who he's married to? I don't know.
I think I would be great at being famous. I'm always trying to be famous. I think particularly that I would be a really good celebrity girlfriend or a really good celebrity wife, because I would post like the silly tongue-in-cheek behind the scenes content that people would really want to see. And then I don't have to be the person who receives all of the hate. I'm just kind of there riding their coattails. So I'm looking for a celebrity boyfriend, if you know any.
Unfortunately, I don't. Sorry.
Work on that. Maybe they go to dig.com. Maybe they get the Dig newsletter every morning. And you can just slip my number in.
If you are interested in dating Julia, please hit us up on social. And I don't even know if we have an email that we sort of publicly give out, but
the bar is on the floor. The bar is in hell. So you definitely qualify. Come through.
I'm also fascinated at me personally, at the divide between like critical reception and like what people consider to be really great and like what people actually watch. And it's mostly just like looking at like the Netflix numbers of like the most watch stuff on the service. And it is always like completely and utterly like not even close to like what people think it is. We're like, you're aware of Tim Robinson and I Think You Should Leave, correct?
Yes.
It seems like everyone on the face of the earth knows about all of that, and yet it's like that show does not get any ratings, and it's like the stuff that does get ratings are like weird old TV shows and movies that are garbage that like people just watch because it's on Netflix.
Well, first of all, you can't trust Netflix's numbers because they don't release good data. So that's like a particularly bad example, but
they're also liars. I mean, every corporation's a giant liar.
I do agree that there is a disconnect between what is critically acclaimed and what people are doing / reading / watching / listening to.
But like to a staggering degree, like I'm obsessed with the fact that like Rain Man was the highest grossing movie of 1988, and that like is an adult drama, rated R, won Best Picture, and like that will never happen again, ever. Like, do people go to the movies anymore? Like,
I go to the movies all the time. I love the movies, mostly because I can eat popcorn and sit in the dark alone.
You really need a celebrity boyfriend. Like,
I need a celebrity boyfriend who can buy the popcorn, but he has to buy his own because I'm not sharing.
It just seems like it's just like things like are so weird and disconnected. Like they just don't make any sense. Like the biggest show on the face of the earth is an Addams Family spinoff.
Mm-hmm.
Like that doesn't make any sense.
I think it's just not you're not in the target audience for that. I gotta be real. Not to keep bringing up my mom on this podcast, but my mom, she teaches 8-year-olds. You know who loves Wednesday? 8-year-olds. She has gone to multiple Wednesday Addams themed birthday parties.
Those movies were like good in the 90s, and Christina Ricci obviously, idol, but like that boggles my mind in a way that like I just like can't like what?
Yeah, I know. Speaking of Christina Ricci, I need Yellow Jackets to come back. I'm like low-key always thinking about what's going to happen on Yellow Jackets.
Funny enough, I think the Yellow Jacket stars are now sort of like branching off and blooming. Like I don't know the names of the actresses, but one of them is starring in the Fallout TV series. And this is
that video game.
Oh my god! See, Fallout's like a huge deal to me. Like my whole life, it's like Fallout is like everyone knows about Fallout. And
your whole life is Fallout.
Playing Fallout, listening to like old music, like collecting like Fallout memorabilia, like it's a bonding thing for. Oh my god. Okay.
Okay, nerd.
Ella Purnell.
Yeah, I see. She actually died. Sorry, spoiler alert. She dies pretty early on in Yellow Jackets. But you know who else I'm seeing is in the Fallout TV series is Moises Arias, who's from Hannah Montana. I saw him in real life one time. I went to the Disney Channel Games in like 2007. I don't know if you remember the Disney Channel Games, but it was like an Olympics by Disney Channel stars. Anyway, Moises Arias was there, and I gave him like one of those head nods, like, yo, what's up? And he gave me one back.
That's cool. Maybe next week we'll do like celebrity encounters, because I think we've both worked jobs where we've talked to celebrities, met them, interacted with them. That would be a good topic for next week. I'm also seeing
topic.
Yes, I'm also seeing Sophie Thatcher was the star of The Boogeyman, which is a movie that my dad watched. She was in Yellow Jackets.
I want to talk. I see that Kyle MacLachlan is in Fallout, and
Yes.
that kind of harkens back to what you were saying about a monoculture, and like you can't reference things anymore because you can't guarantee that somebody has seen them. Kyle MacLachlan in Twin Peaks. I watched Twin Peaks when I was in college, and now I see Twin Peaks references everywhere, and I feel like crazy when I talk to somebody and I'm like, oh, that's exactly like Twin Peaks. Like I see the Twin Peaks references in this, and they look at me like side-eyed, like, what are you talking about? That we need another Twin Peaks, and it doesn't need to be the Twin Peaks revival. It needs to be like another like seminal cultural experience.
I'm showing my lovely, wonderful girlfriend The Simpsons for the first time, and it is so fascinating to see so many memes and jokes and references to characters and things, like even like phrases or names where she goes, "Oh, that's Dr. Nick. Hi, Dr. Nick. Hi, everybody." Like people would say that to her and she like never understood, or like she'll like see like Homer like backing up into the bushes, and she'll like see things, or she'll see references to movies that I will then show her. Like if they make a Jurassic Park joke, I'll have to show her Jurassic Park, and then that'll sort of like daisy chain to like, oh, now I remember other things that made fun of Jurassic Park because of all these memorable moments. Like all of that is gone. Like whatever you make now, you're advertising Flamin' Hot Cheetos. You're making a movie because you're advertising Blackberries. You're making a movie because you're advertising Air Jordans, or you're making a movie advertising Tetris. And it's a mix of product placement and nostalgia / historical archival footage.
Bro, do you enjoy anything?
Fallout, which is a wonderful video game series about what if the 50s had sort of like been when World War III happened and China nukes America, and there's a nuclear wasteland, and then like thousands of years in the future, the only culture that is remaining is like 40s and 50s music. And so it's like this like tongue-in-cheek like end of the world, but like happy Disney, like Walt Disney Utopia, like that kind of like fun mashup.
It sounds like all of your pop culture opinions are sponsored by Fallout.
Listen,
like
if
maybe
Amazon and Bethesda are listening, if Todd Howard wants to hire me, so be it. But I really thought that The Witcher was going to be the next Game of Thrones, because I had read the Witcher books and played the games, and they like kind of botched it. And then I figured The Last of Us would be a really big hit, and it was. And I hope this Fallout TV series is good, because honestly, superhero media is going down and video game adaptations are going up, up, up. And that's really where I come in to either be a cynic or a champion of, oh, these Sonic movies are good. That Mario Brothers movie was whatever. What did they do to Twisted Metal? And so I'm fascinated to learn your perspective on, like, you're not a big gamer, so like, but like a lot of gaming things are like now like in the cultural zeitgeist.
All right, dude, you don't know me. I'm a gamer. You know what I've been playing recently? Suika game. You know what Suika game is?
I love Suika game.
Oh my God. I want to watch a TV show that's just people playing Suika game. It's this game for the uninitiated where you have like it's kind of like reverse Tetris. It's with fruits. So you have fruits of different sizes that you drop onto each other and they become bigger. And your goal is to get 2 daddy watermelons. But it's really hard to even get a single baby watermelon. Anyway, that's the content that I'm interested in.
they announced that there's a multiplayer mode coming to Suika Game.
Oh, thank God. We also need a mobile app. Oh my God. I can't believe there's not a
Yeah.
mobile app of Suika Game yet, or at
There's
least an official one.
There's a lot of knockoffs, but if you want to play, it's only a few dollars for Switch, and you can go to suikagame.com and just like play like a Flash version of it. Well, Flash doesn't exist, but
I was just reading that there is a version, I don't know the name of it, but it's like with planets, and it upgrades the Suika Game experience because you can get a rocket to come in and like eliminate some things. Seems like Suika Game next level.
oh man. Now I'm waiting for the Angry Birds cinematic universe, but Suika Game. So like all the fruits have like names and their characters.
Sometimes they get scared when you're like, you haven't dropped them for a while. They're up top just hanging and they look a little queasy. And then I feel for them.
Unbelievable. But yes, I'm fascinated to know if the future of concerts are just Fortnite. You just go into Fortnite and hey, there's Lady Gaga. Hey, there's Ariana Grande. And if Taylor Swift would ever team up with Fortnite.
Absolutely not. Not the Taylor Swift part, but no, that is not the way that concerts are going. I think concerts are getting bigger and more in person. Ever since the pandemic, it's just gone like gangbusters. And I think there's such an experience, at least for me, that it's not something you can replicate in Fortnite. I do think it's funny though, when people perform in Roblox. Like Lil Nas X did a Roblox concert and I watched it. And it was so funny because he was just performing and all of these little Roblox guys were like running through him in the field. Excellent comedy.
Wow. Well, we're nearing the end, and I can't go into the specifics of Disney investing billions into Fortnite because instead of making their own games, they figured they would just latch onto the most popular game ever. And that's also another fascinating topic. But where can people find your work on the internet, Julia?
Oh, great. Yeah, my work has nothing to do with anything we've talked about, but you can find my work at money.com/dollarscholar. It's a newsletter I write for millennials about personal finance. And it does include 5 random links from around the internet that are often pop culture related, as well as a receipt of the week section, which is about a wild celebrity purchase. So that would be a good place to find me. Or you can email me at julia@money.com. That's me.
Are you on Twitter?
I am on Twitter. My X, excuse me, please use its given name.
Never. I will never do that as long as I live.
I'm on Twitter. It's at Super Julia. And that is because I was really into the idea of being a superhero for a little while. And I made my handle in like 2006 and haven't changed it.
I'm on Twitter at Jared Russo. I'm also on technically Blue Sky. But no one really cares about that. Good job, Jack Dorsey. You can read my work at Dig.com. And every time I write a post and send it to my staff members or editors, and I write the word Twitter, and they go, "Don't you mean X?" I tell them to jump off a cliff. I will never call it X. No one should ever call it X. And half the website keeps saying the word Twitter. Like, they didn't get the new name in all the code. It's ridiculous. Elon Musk is probably high on lithium right now, and no one should ever listen to anything he says.
As a journalist, I have no comment on what you just said.
What is he going to do? Ban me? I'll be free. Free of the cesspool that is.
Then you have to go to Threads.
I'm not going to Threads.
Yeah, go to Facebook again. I love Facebook. Go to LinkedIn. I'm like LinkedIn's biggest fan.
Oh, God. This is another topic for another day. I guess I would just sadly use Blue Sky, but... Ugh.